Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Hello everyone and welcome to another playoff episode of the Combot Collective here. We're breaking down the first half, the left side half of the top 32 bracket. It was episode 11. We just saw it last week. Fantastic episode, great fights. Bit of controversy with how some fights ended up going down, what fights ended up getting selected for the main episode. We'll get to all that in a second. I'm Sterling Brown here as always, former writer at Third Law Sports. Moderator at the Battlebots subreddit, runner of King of Draft, here as always with my set of co-hosts here, MisterRedman, PoryNog, and Freeze. Are you guys doing all right today?
Doing all right, thank you, Quit.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah, P1 won that fight.
Fantastic. So that's how we're gonna start it.
Yeah,
Yes.
And
it's
I
not
had to
just
let
because...
people know.
Let's start. Let's get it red hot. Let's get it spicy here. We're going to start with that. In fact, we're all in agreement here. P1 all the way. It's a bit differing. We were actually talking a little bit about it before the episode. Freeze was there, of course. He has an opinion. I have an opinion. Redman and Pory have their opinion. I'm really thinking this was an 8-3 P1 decision. I'm even more in favor of P1 than a lot of people are. But what are y'all's thoughts on that fight as we start off hot here?
I'll go in. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
I thought P1 won that pretty convincingly. I had it down 7-4. I'd go 3-2 on damage, P1, 2-1 in both of the other categories. I just don't think the volume at which HyperShock was dealing out damage or attacks in general were enough to really. I thought they lost every category, and I'm kind of surprised at the reaction. I think a lot of it is just biased toward a popular robot, and I get that. But as far as the damage goes, they got in 3 hits, and even that massive one, probably one of the best hits of the season. P1 landed on their wheels and they continued to move. The drive was just a little bit sketchy, but I think that compared to the weapon going down, we know how heavily they weight that. I think that'd have to be at least a 3-2 in P1's favor. And then I think controls obviously P1. I think people are kind of downplaying how long HyperShock spent on its back. Really, I mean, it was over 2 minutes. If you look at the clock when they go down compared to when they get back up, what they say, under a minute to. It's under a minute to go when they are still on their back. I mean, it's just too much time to really get anything done. Yeah, and they weren't being terribly, aggressive. They obviously didn't have any control like that, but they weren't being terribly aggressive there either. I mean, they were running into P1, but the weapon wasn't able to spin while they were upside down, and they were spending a lot of time trying to get back up. Meanwhile, P1, I mean, I know people are saying they didn't use the lifter as much as they could have. That was part of the strategy, but this is not a beta situation where they're not firing the weapon.
They were.
They were still using it.
Yeah.
They got them up on the shelf. I know that the judges really like to see that, and they actually did it successfully. I didn't think they'd be able to. And they still had it going sometimes. Actually, near the end of the fight, kind of wish they had done it a little bit more, but they probably knew it could be used as a ramp where they put it up just a little bit to help control them better. And then, once HyperShock got flipped back over, they continued using it. They got to lift in near the screws before they got blasted. And I don't know, man. I just don't think, as with some of the decisions we've seen, like the Kraken and HiJinx, or even the Bloodsport and Claw Viper, I don't think this is very controversial. I think you'd really have to just kind of be set in stone for who you wanted to see win if you were super upset by this decision. But what I'd have to say is, man, shout out to the P1 guys. After missing out the playoffs last season, they came back in, got a couple of really quality wins. And not just to come in here and upset an undefeated bot in the way that they did by absolutely controlling the fight, but to do it over HyperShock, the robot that I think a lot of people thought they should have been replacing last year. I think that's a really great job for them, and they've still got their toughest tests ahead of them. Their next round opponent, which we'll talk about later, but man, I'm super happy about this.
Yeah, this whole HyperShock P1 thing, it's a shame it's going on the way it is in the online community. But yeah, for me, you're talking about it, 2 minutes on its back. And during that 2 minutes on its back, I mean, sure, it ran to P1 a few times, but that certainly was more so to try to do what it did earlier, throw itself back over, same way it was running into the screws and the upper deck and all these things. It pretty much showed zero control, zero aggression for a whole 2 minutes of the fight because it was too busy doing something else. And that's where I really ended up having that 8-3 decision in my view. Let me look back at what I ended up going with here. I went 3-2 damage for P1. I was thinking about going 3-2 for HyperShock, but really thinking about HyperShock's weapon going down a whole 2 minutes of not spinning it at all, and then barely doing anything with it before they got flipped over. You have to go 3-2. The hit can only give him so much. 3-0 control, which I know can be a bit controversial because they did push him a little bit there at the end, but I have to think that they just being on its back that whole time, and that's why I went 2-1 aggression as well there. You could probably go 2-1 control, 3-0 aggression as well. Either way, it was just such a rough showing for HyperShock there. Really unfortunate. It just seems like every time HyperShock cannot get into the top 16 for the life of it now. They've been in every single season. They haven't been able to make... Okay, 2015 they made it there, but ever since the field's really grown, they haven't been able to make that threshold. Just 2019, they had the goofy moment where their own rake got caught up in the spinner of HyperShock. Now they get stuck on their back here in the round of 32, trying to get into that Elite 16 group. It's just really unfortunate what HyperShock's dealing with here. But P1 in here, like y'all were saying, it's so exciting to see P1 doing this. You know, we love him here, and just so stupid what they dealt with last year, coming through here. Now they're taking on a proper top robot. It's really great to see.
It looks like the casual fans are still on their hobby horse about getting more vert decisions out of the show. While they sit out and protest. I mean, my sense personally is that HyperShock's success was based on syncing slam mode with their bot and the team compared to others.
He's doing it.
I thought you were going to turn it around for a second.
No, yeah, I agreed with the decision.
Yeah, I think HyperShock really, in a way, just made it, just fed P1 the damage category when they killed their spinner. There wasn't really much else to it, really, and when it comes to it, P1 out-controlled HyperShock. I think it's always a pleasure to see a non-conventional robot such as a flipper or a lifter beating a vertical spinner. Since a vertical spinner, and it could be considered as, like, you know, the easy mode, the easy street. You're guaranteed success with the vertical spinner. But with a robot like a lifter or a flipper, you know, getting a win over someone like that, that's the real ticket. That's where the trophy is at. And if P1 wins, I'll be ecstatic. You know, if P1 wins this season, beat HyperShock SawBlaze first. But, you know, you can dream.
Challenge.
Yeah, it'd be tough. I really think they should get some nice long forks on, because I noticed for this fight they had the really, I don't know if they even had any left, but they had really stubby ones on, and they weren't really able to get under aside from the that crazy ramp when they landed. So yeah. I'm hoping they have a set of forks spare, but I mean, they've already exceeded expectations this season. They got wins over Valkyrie and HyperShock, which you know, is pretty great for a robot that can't do damage.
Yeah, you don't really see any other control bots doing that. They're on a really good spot now. They're pretty much locked for next year now with the top 16 placement here. Taking on SawBlaze there. SawBlaze had HiJinx round one. Poor HiJinx can't get away from these MIT robots kicking its ass. At least it didn't get thrown out of the arena in 8 seconds this time. It just got absolutely mutilated by SawBlaze there. But hey, I will give credit to the 29th seed HiJinx. It showed probably some of the best durability it ever had here. I will say, whenever HiJinx first debuted its design, showed it off back in 2020, I was like, oh, this is going to be the deep six of the horizontal spinners. This is going to be a crazy glass cannon. But what we've seen, I am really impressed with how well it's stood up and fights now against spots like Uppercut, Butts, the Kraken fight, of course, the SawBlaze fight. But Redman, let's go to this glitch, or what was supposed to be glitch Witch Doctor fight here. Mammoth into the playoffs by virtue of luck, by virtue of being ready and being prepared, I should say. Not really luck, bit of luck there because Glitch couldn't get work in. But Redman, you finally got a bot, the King of Draft bot, into the playoffs there.
Yeah, my team, the Bag of Shells, finally actually got a robot in, simply because Glitch apparently, can't get it up. And really, that's just a bit of luck, really. I'm just glad Mammoth was given a chance to compete. But the competing up against a robot such as Witch Doctor, I was like, oh my god, you're feeding him to the sharks. Witch Doctor is a fantastic machine. He's been in the game since day one, and putting him up against Mammoth, it's like Mammoth needs a lot to beat Witch Doctor, otherwise it's not really going to beat him at all. And I'm glad that it managed to actually get to the top 36, but I would have rather have been there simply out of it, be earning its right to be there instead of someone not being ready. But Glitch, I mean, I felt like Glitch from the beginning just got there for the sake of luck anyway. I mean, in their terms of their matches, they Ghost Raptor could let them be immobilized and they would have gotten a loss. And Hydra, had they not been made out of tinfoil and crisp, probably would have done a lot more against Glitch. So really, I think Glitch being there, really not being there, is just kind of like things. Especially when you've been hearing apparently from the background that Glitch just takes too long to get ready. So
yeah, there was a lot of buzz about people in attendance saying Glitch was a robot. Behind the scenes talk about Glitch being a robot that really had a lot of behind the scenes gremlins going on, and we saw it right here in the forefront. They can only do so much to put it away, and here it ended up just having to be a DQ. Battlebots finally having to explain.
I can actually butt in here and say a little bit. I actually have not got around to reading his write-up about the Glitch situation, so I won't comment too much on the actual specifics. I'm not going to, give them shit for not having their bot ready. It sucks. It seems like it just comes from how ambitious they were. I mean, they had, the brushless weapon motors, the brushless drive motors, if I'm correct. They had the Omni wheels, they had the vertical spinner, and this kind of unconventional new shape. There's a lot of things that go into getting a first-year robot ready when you have all of those components. But I actually had the opportunity to talk to the Glitch team in between the sessions of the playoffs, because they were supposed to fight in the first one and they hadn't gone yet. And when I spoke to them, they were basically just saying they were having some trouble with the weapon motors, the brushless motors, and they were hoping to get it ready soon. So I'm not sure. I haven't read his write-up yet, but it seemed to be a motor issue at least. I feel bad for that. I mean, one thing I did like about Glitch was that they were trying to apply some new and unique things to the meta design. Putting the Omni wheels on, I thought was a good idea, and it's something that hasn't been tried for a vertical spinner yet. But with that comes ambition, and it may have been a bit over-ambitious for a first-year team to put all those things into a robot when you don't have that much pit time. I mean, a lot of these robots this season were fighting 2 times in one day, and I know they did, because I was there for 4 regular season sessions and they fought 3 times in those. So they were having to go right back into the pits, fix things up, and get it ready again. And although they did seem to get a lot better during their regular season matches, it takes a toll on you, and there's a lot of work in the pit that we don't see on TV that separates the good teams from the great and the legendary teams. So, I don't know what their situation is with their struggles in the pits, if how eager Battlebots are to want them back. But I just think after a 3-0 regular season, regardless of how lucky it was, I'd like to see them back, and I'd like to give them another chance, just to see what they could do. And it just sucks to see a team go out without a loss.
Yeah, we know they will be in the bounty brackets, at least to some extent, but it is really unfortunate. We know it is, like you were saying, it's a very ambitious robot, but this is a first-year team and it is a school team, and I believe that this is literally their first Combot robot, period. Team had some knowledge, of course, to build something like this, but they only started doing smaller robot stuff after the Glitch stuff. So just what they've been able to do here, going 3-0 despite all the bumpy things they dealt with, especially with the weapon, like you were saying. It is really impressive to see what they've done, and I'm sure that out of all the newcomers we've seen this year, excluding bots like Blip, that are already connected to a team, out of pure rookies, I think Glitch is probably the biggest lock for 2022 out of every robot we've seen here. But talking about the fight itself here. Mammoth and Witch Doctor. Mammoth, of course, being the most prepared robot. There was a little bit of a controversy online. People talking about like, oh, this robot should have came in. This robot should have came in. A lot of people saying Blacksmith and Claw Viper, namely, as two robots that should have had that spot before a robot like Mammoth. But one thing you got to factor in here is that everything we saw in those last 4 regular season episodes were likely, outside maybe a couple, I know they do jumble around the fights a little bit, everything happened in that day and a half window. And you look at a robot like Claw Viper, who just had fought Bloodsport. You look at a robot just like Blacksmith, who had just fought Malice and had its entire weapon system decapitated. There's definitely a much lesser chance for a robot like that to be ready versus Mammoth, who just fought Lucky and lost the wheel, maybe had a little bit done to its chains, but they probably were able to get ready in a quicker manner. And outside of those 3 robots and maybe Fusion, I don't know about Fusion, they definitely were very finicky this season. I think Mammoth.
Well, and they also caught on fire, so.
Yeah, they caught on fire quite a bit. They really had us all fooled. They were like, "Oh, they're so good. They might be good. They beat Cobalt." Nope.
Yeah, we actually got some inside info about from the Mammoth guys about how they actually select those alternates, which was pretty good info. That was it seems like they actually, for robots, I don't know if it's quadrant based or if they actually pick out individual robots they don't think will be ready, but basically said for certain robots they had a certain alternate. So for Glitch it was Mammoth, and they were like, hey, if Glitch isn't ready, Mammoth steps in. So I'm assuming that it wasn't a last minute like, hey, is anybody ready? Mammoth were probably standing around like, hey, we'll put the bot back together. They probably already had it ready when they came up to them and were like, hey, Glitch isn't ready to go. And they were the last fight of the round of 32. They fought at like 9:45. But yeah, they said in their exit interview, I know they haven't been showing many of them this year, but they said they had taken it fully apart after the Lucky fight, but they got it back together. The fight wasn't very competitive, but this is the same thing we said about the Rampage guys. BattleBots puts a lot of stock into teams that are able to get ready on a short notice and get in that arena, regardless of what else is going on and how well the robot has been doing. So props to the Mammoth guys for getting in there and saving a match, because God forbid anyone wanted to see Witch Doctor just get a bye to the round of 16.
Yeah, it would be horrible for TV. And so I do have one question before we move on to a different fight here. Did you know that was the situation going in, or did you think Mammoth was just a top 32 robot when you were there watching it at first?
Oh no, we knew, because I saw Mammoth's Lucky fight. It was almost certain that they weren't getting in at that point. So the bracket obviously isn't displayed at the end of the round regular season like it is on TV, because they actually have to take that night to decide it. But they also don't even show it to the audience when we start. So we kind of went in, sat down, and they're like, all right, here's our first match, and they rolled out HyperShock and P1, and it's like, all right, so that's, those are the first 2 robots. And as matches came in, we started to kind of figure out the bracket
together.
They're combined with, they do the little intro outro bumper, so I'd kind of listen for, robots might be in there, what seed numbers and stuff like that. But basically I knew that Glitch was fighting Witch Doctor, and we were kind of sitting there because my dad and I were both there together, and we were excited for that fight because Glitch had been surprising everybody, and it just kept not showing up. And like I said, I went and talked to them in between sessions, because I was like, hey, I thought they said something about you were supposed to be fighting this session. And and the fight kept getting delayed. And then at the end, I saw the Witch Doctor team, because you can see one side of the walkway. I saw them. I was like, oh, this fight is finally happening. And then we're sitting there, and they start passing out Mammoth signs, and we all kind of knew in that moment that's like, oh, no, they... And it sucks, because, I don't want any disrespect to the Mammoth team or the Mammoth robot, but that is such a bad matchup.
Right.
I think
the moment you heard it,
we all knew. We all knew when that happened. It's like, Mammoth was able to beat Copperhead because that's such an unstable, like physically unstable robot. But Witch Doctor is so flat on the ground. It's the 4-wheel drive. It's hard to get flipped by something that isn't a flipper or vertical spinner. And I just don't think Mammoth had the leverage, and I mean, that was a pretty anticlimactic fight being there too. I mean, we were all excited to see what if Glitch could actually take them down, and then when Witch Doctor rolls up and blows it up in 3 hits, it was pretty disappointing. But no, I did not expect Mammoth to show up. That kind of just happened in the last 15 minutes I was there, actually. So it is what it is. Shout out to that team for getting in the box, and I hope we get to see Glitch back next year.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it says right here the fight was 53 seconds. Doesn't It didn't update on the Battlebots website though. It says it was Glitch, so it looks like Witch Doctor beat Glitch. That's heartbreaking. But what are you gonna do? Moving on here though, talking about Copperhead a little bit. Of course, you just brought him up. Copperhead, the 8th seed, beat Lucky, the 25th seed. It was a very, very average, your standard robot fight. Flipper couldn't really flip. The spinner kind of spun. Just enough damage to really chisel its way through to get the victory there. And the other untelevised fight, this had some people stirring. Huge 28th seed, uppercut the 5th seed. This was a fight everyone was buzzing about. 2 big impact hitters, and boy, that first hit was absolutely juicy. Uppercut almost went out of the arena there. Not many people are talking about that, but it was like 3 feet off from going into that corner pocket. P1 was as well. That HyperShock hit. A lot of close calls here for out of the arenas, but then Huge ended up just kind of breaking down. Uppercut, because Huge just wasn't getting counted out. Uppercut was getting a couple more hits there. Ended up eating shit and dying on Huge. Double JD, double knockout. Uppercut ended up winning. What were y'all's thoughts on these 2 untelevised fights? We got to talk about these a bit here.
I thought that the uppercut and Huge fight was a fantastic battle. To me, it felt a lot more even than the Tombstone versus Mammoth double knockout. I think both robots, in a way, did feel like they impacted one like each other in a pretty strong way. But I can see how uppercut really won that fight, considering that they did it like damage the drive of Huge. And I think both robots, despite the double knockout and despite Huge losing, put on a fantastic show and showed why they are in the top 32. So it's great. And yeah, it was fantastic seeing them win. Really, uppercut have just done tremendously and have grown so well over the past few seasons they've been in there, and they've really just shown to be one of the more powerful and unique verts out there. Very much what Monsoon could have been, I suppose, kind of thing. If Monsoon was still competing,
we should see it next year, hopefully.
Yeah, we hope we see it next year. Though I suppose the other fight really with Copperhead was Lucky. I knew that Copperhead was going to win anyway, but I expected at least Lucky to put up at least some decent more of a fight. But seeing their configuration was just
they just couldn't get under.
It was, those forks just weren't it.
Like, because I don't know what they were trying to go for here. I don't know what.
It seems like they didn't have a traditional, the meta long fork setup. So they either had the plow or that. Mm-hmm. So they went with that, which I guess was the better option because the plow just wouldn't be able to get under Copperhead. But
I don't really see how I don't really see how it could feed a robot up onto that flipper though.
It's not a good design for small bots.
And also, when you got forks that are that fragile going up against that big of a drum, even if they do get under, they're going to get chewed up in a couple of hits. So
yeah, I feel like they should have just stuck with the plow and try that.
Yeah, maybe it would be more durable, so it might give them a better chance.
Because Copperhead's a 2-wheeled robot, so it's already going to be scraping the ground, and it's already one of the lowest spots I think out there. So in terms of ground game, it's going to be great. So I think you should at least be durable and try and maybe catch one of its big wheels and get under it. I don't know. It's just a shame.
Yeah, I think you can definitely give or take Lucky and Copperhead. It was definitely a very, very average fight. It's a bit of a shame that the Huge uppercut fight didn't make TV just because they had a full 8 fights on the episodes last year.
Yeah, I wanted to mention this. A lot of people have been saying that they didn't think any of the playoffs fights have been skipped and filler and whatnot. I don't think there was any way they were getting. I don't think they were getting 9 fights in, and no matter what. They were never going to get 9 fights in with this new format.
Especially with that one being in JD, yeah.
Yeah, but I would have liked to see 8. people are kind of exaggerating the amount of filler that was in this episode. I think those segments about Glitch were very necessary. I think that needed to be shown on TV. There was only one little segment before the commercial break, I think before the main event, that was kind of weird and could have been cut.
I want to talk about that. Yeah. I like how SubZero's only inclusion into the top 32 was a fucking fat joke. I'm sorry. That's my one F-bomb for the episode. But it was really a fat joke.
Oh, boy, added a moo sound effect.
But that's not even the robot's theme. They really just did him dirty.
They really just did him. They made him the narrator of the whole segment. I was like, this is weird, dude.
And also that segment, I've watched the episode with 2 different groups of people, and both of them thought that was really weird. It was pretty unnecessary. It didn't really add anything.
I feel like they should use that segment as like a way to catch up on the untelevised fight.
Well, one thing I liked about they did a good job with the way they display the untelevised fights. They gave enough information. They showed basically every bit of action. One thing I will say is that like I feel like all of the filler that they do have, and they've been doing a pretty good job this year, should be fight related, or it should be like actually showing something about the teams or behind the scenes. I liked in years past where you've had, the Jenny Taft pit segments. I thought those were great. I know we don't have her anymore. But, just something that isn't just, us dicking around for commercials. But, we're not sitting here watching the fights, Sorry, I don't skip all the filler. I don't just watch fights. I know a lot of people do. You can stick to your subreddits for that. But, I like watching the show. I think it's paced well. Yeah. But I do think we could have fit an 8th fight in there. And I think Uppercut versus Huge was a good length, especially because Copperhead Lucky was just a one-sided beatdown. I would have liked to see the 8th fight get in there. And it's my understanding that they'll be doing it for the other episode too, that they'll be skipping 2 fights, and that's a little bit disappointing. I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it, but I would have liked to see 8 fights out of the 9.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I feel like they could have fit 8 fights in there probably, and but I do like you said, I do like the filler too. Like I'm not a Battlebots for all kind of guy or whatever that thing is, where they just watch the
court. Censor that.
Yeah, hey man.
Yeah, I like to watch the actual show. I like to the stuff
supporting
in between,
it. Yeah,
the glitch drama was important, and I mean I get why, because I feel like if Mammoth was originally in, they probably would have made that the basement fight instead of Uppercut Huge. But considering the circumstances, I see how that's necessary.
Too much context.
But man, I've never uncomfortable laughed at Battlebots so much when they added the fucking cow sound.
That segment made me uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie.
Man, it was weird, dude.
I'm just like, bro, what?
It feels like they put a segment in because it didn't feel in tone with the rest of the filler segments they've done all season. It felt like someone added that in post just to mess with Sterling.
SubZero fans.
That's like something I would add. That's like something weird I would add to one of my videos, pretty much.
You know what? It
felt like a YouTube poop.
They made me feel hope too. Whenever they said, "Oh, let's build some suspense for 5 seconds. Who's gonna be the 30? Who's gonna be the new 9th seed? It's gonna be." I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be." It's Mammoth.
Yeah, it's gonna be SubZero at.
Why not? Why not? Maybe they're ready. We were in the wrong quadrant. If Blip pulled out, we would have been ready, dude.
It should have been Deadlift, man.
What the heck? They didn't even get 3 fights. They're nerds.
I don't care. They almost beat Jackpot.
They looked at the
re-arguing which winless bot was better this year.
Yeah. The one that got 3 wins must have been better because they brought it back. They said after that Ice Favorite, they're like, get out of here. Get up out of here. That's what they said.
Would have been cool to see Lockjaw roll up, but regardless,
Lockjaw is probably the one deserving one. I would have not been mad if Lockjaw pulled up.
Yeah, but I mean, so have we actually talked about? Yeah, so Redman did his thing about the fight. I want to talk about the Uppercut Huge fight. What the hell was that?
Yeah, at least with all these other situations we talked about last week, at least they were crowd walking. At least they were kind of like, they're still in the fight. You could at least make that debate. Huge is sitting there.
I talked about this with the Kraken and the HiJinx fight. This is just another case of they're so unwilling to count robots out sometimes that they're forcing other robots to go in and attack. I just feel like even in that situation, like, how do you not recognize that Huge was out for like a full 10 to 15 seconds before Uppercut was immobilized? That should not have been a double knockout.
Maybe
when I saw that live, When I saw that live, I was like, if Huge wins this, that is an absolute train robbery. Because that was pretty clear.
Maybe it's because I watched these fights for so long, literally my whole life. Once a robot's still for 5 seconds, it's pretty clear they're dead. Like, I looked after seeing Huge sit there for like 3 seconds, I was like, oh yeah, they're knocked out.
Well, I just
That's
feel
not
like
what Huge does.
You know, they saw both the robots dead at the end and they wanted to count them both out. But it's like, even after Uppercut came in with that hit, Huge just kind of rolled and it wasn't moving. Like, that should be like a, hey, this thing was definitely dead before. You know, it's done.
Yeah, at that point, Uppercut was stuck too, so they were like, oh.
And I was so nervous because that was a really even fight, and I was like, oh my god, they might give this to Huge. I think Uppercut dragging it across the arena near the end was what did it. I think that gave them a control point that they needed for that decision, because it's so hard to judge a 30-second fight. But, man,
only two big moving impacts.
Yeah.
I mean, can't the judges also be like, that robot was knocked out first, so this robot wins? Like, isn't that part of the thing theoretically?
Well, as I was there, and it wasn't like a creative editing. I can tell you that actually went to decision. So I don't know, because I think they still have to fill out their cards. So if they do that, I guess, you know, they would be like, oh, well, if we want to kind of pseudo-judge that, just give Uppercut most of the damage points, because it basically knocked the other robot out. I don't know what the cards were like. I'd love to get those.
Yeah, it's a shame it didn't make TV, because they would have shown them. But
that's a good thing for the next judge AMA. I think, like, if it's a situation like that, like,
good one, yeah.
Surely Judge Jason, who never misses, maybe he's like, oh, Huge was knocked out, you know, so Uppercut wins. Like, there should be like a thing on the rules being like, okay, if the refs just ignore or like fall asleep or something and don't count out the robot, you know, the judges should come in clutch with that, maybe. You know what I mean? It's something that I was thinking about. But
yeah, I don't know.
If that was legitimately a double KO, I would have probably gone Huge, just barely, just because I feel like they had a little bit more of an impact. But the fact that Uppercut was alive like 20 seconds longer, I feel that's what was like, Uppercut
Huge definitely won opening impact, but yeah.
It's tough for me. I think I would have edged it out to Uppercut. But
like it's definitely close.
The bottom line for me is like I would have been pretty heated if Huge won that, just because of the actual circumstances of the fight. So I'm glad they ended up getting it right. Too.
They robbed my King of Draft team of 2 points by not counting Huge out. Bastards.
Yeah. Well, Lucky stuck in there about 2.5 minutes longer than it should have, so it robbed me of 2 points too. So you're good.
That's fair. As we move on here, capping off that quarter of the bracket there, Shatter, of course, lost to Riptide. A bit unfortunate. I was really hoping they'd use the Mary Special here, but I was talking to Pory before this, and apparently there was just too much damage on the weapon for them to use it for this fight.
Yeah, Blacksmith did mess it up pretty good. It was pretty bent by the end of that fight.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. I feel like that'd have been such a good counter to that thing.
Well, it's so weird for this fight though, because you know, I was expecting that if they were gonna lose this, it would be in a situation like the Malice fight, like a season ago, where the Hammerhead gets knocked off and they're not really able to do anything. But the weapon actually stayed intact. It was just Riptide shredded through that ablative armor. I was really surprised.
Oh yeah, Riptide kicked Shatter's ass there. I can admit that. It was a solid driving, you know, Shatter. They got Shatter in the corner there. They got it literally finessed, propped up, angled in there on the spike strip. So fantastic driving by them. They ended up.
They also actually they popped it up on the upper deck, which was a bit unexpected.
Yeah, that's right. They did. There was a lot happening in that fight.
This is just. Are we all a little worried about how scary Riptide is right now?
Riptide's pretty crazy. I'm not completely sold on their weapon reliability. I know they like really screwed it up when they realized after the Huge fight, like that a lot of stuff was like messed up with it, and then of course in the Defender fight they were having issues. Looked good in the Duck fight, looked good in the Shatter fight, but it'll be a real test going up against Uppercut just to test the robot's reliability as well, because it really hasn't been tested against another big time spinner besides Huge, and that was a lucky hit with that one. So we'll have to see what goes down with that fight. But moving up to the top quarter of this half of the bracket here, let's start talking about Malice, Endgame, Scorpius, Minotaur, and Bloodsport here. going after Minotaur and Bloodsport here, a battle of who might potentially rematch Endgame. And Minotaur won here. I know some people are saying that this was a pretty unphenomenal fight, but this was probably my favorite fight of the night right here.
I agree.
Just a good back and forth. I mean, Bloodsport was the club sandwich really got banged up there. It was all torn apart, but it held up, spinning. They kept spinning that thing. Did Bloodsport almost have a Mauler dance during this fight? It looked like it was really uneasy.
They got hit, and they did a full cartwheel after a hit from Minotaur. I was impressed that they landed it.
Yeah, it was a spectacular fight. Definitely worthy of the 16th seed versus the 17th seed. But moving on.
Yeah, I
here.
actually one thing I wanted to say is I've been surprised with how durable some of these bots are, especially the ones that don't look like they should be. I mean, Lucky lasted a full 3 minutes just getting banged up. Bloodsport isn't super armored on its bottom side, and it took a full 3 minutes for Minotaur. HiJinx out of nowhere getting absolutely clubbed for 3 minutes. That thing was still moving, controlled somehow. I think the threshold for how well these bots are built is getting really, really high nowadays.
Yeah, it's why I love playoff season now, because it's just going to be quality fights, more 3-minute fights, robots going the distance, and it only gets better and better as you get deeper through the rounds. We get stuff like Robot versus Black Dragon last year, where the bot's literally on fire and the other one's just barely alive, and they go the full 3 minutes still. It's just beautiful to see. You don't really get those quick KOs anymore. When you do, it just makes them even more surprising. It's lined up to be a good set of matches here. But yeah, talking about Scorpius and Malice here, that was a pretty good solid fight. Talking about solid fights that are kind of getting overlooked, the play-in matchup for this round, the wild card matchup, if you will. Scorpius getting the 32nd seed and going on to take on Endgame in tonight's main event of sorts. Of course, Endgame winning here. What are y'all's thoughts on this match and the unique setup that Scorpius was using here? Y'all were comparing it to the beta attachment against Ribbot last year, and I could definitely see it. It just seems like a weird time to be super experimental.
Scorpios, of course, firstly, shelf finally being used for what it's meant to be.
Crazy
cool.
KO.
Applause. Good applause. Endgame winning, probably not to no surprise. He's a champion. There's a reason why it's the #1 seed, so good on Endgame there. But yes, Scorpios just did not have the ground game in that battle, and ideally up against Endgame, I think at this point you need the ground game to beat it. It's such a difficult robot, I think, to fight. I mean, it's a rectangle with a very good turning circle. The only way you're really going to get underneath it or outdrive it is if you somehow have the speed of P1. And it just seems like when it comes to it, Endgame just has it all worked out, and you really need to beat it through some kind of like wedge game. And Scorpios just didn't have it, and they just got thrown about. They were still working, of course. You can still see the wheels moving about that fight, but clearly they got lodged in there and that in the shelf, and that was it. And it's a shame, really. Since Scorpios, I think, is such an impressive machine, and I think it can be just as threatening as SawBlaze in the right situations. Of course, I don't know if it can be just as destructive. So they clearly have gone, I think, for more armor and defense over than SawBlaze, really, which has got SawBlaze, I think, which got more into their weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the SawBlaze, it's a shame that Scorpios is out. They're a fantastic machine, but when it comes to endgame, losing against it, I suppose, comes to no surprise.
Yeah, they did better than their SawBot counterpart, at least their hammer saw counterpart and SawBlaze. At least they made it the whole 3 minutes. Just boldly different fights, but still really dominant victories here for endgame. But yeah, you're right. It is a shame to see Scorpius fall out in the round of 32 again. Thought they got robbed in last year's match against Witch Doctor. But here, nah, you can't say you got robbed. It was pretty open shut. Scorpius going out here. And hopefully it ends up... We're probably going to see it defend a bounty in the bounty bracket. I don't think it'll be in a tournament because of that. But
what I wanted to say is... so first of all, with that Scorpios and Malice fight, it's a shame to see the weapon go down after one hit.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate.
Yeah, really
disappointing.
disappointing.
Was just a big thing for Malice this year. Sorry.
Yeah, but it is good to see them at least. Just like I was just saying, the robot lasted the full 3 minutes. That thing is built like a tank. The hammer saw just took a couple of chips out of it, and it was running the full 3 minutes. So shout out to the building and the driving on Malice. It's just a shame that the weapon wasn't able to hold up for the entire fight. For the endgame and Scorpios fight, mind the configuration in isolation. The problem is that it's on Scorpios, and Scorpios is what we like to call Wheelie Hut Juniors at all times.
Oh gosh,
so so if it's on a more stable robot, I kind of like the wide fork idea, but on Scorpios, I mean, it's kind of hard to see them getting under anything, and they had a very small window at the very beginning of the fight where they got under endgame, and they just weren't able to leverage it and push them around and get the weapon going. I probably would have preferred to see them use the config they had against Whiplash.
I think so,
but, again, I don't know all the details of what goes into the getting the robot ready. But regardless, I think it was a good season from Scorpios, even though they finished with a under 500 record out of all their fights. I think in another season where there weren't so many 2-in-1 robots, it could have got in at a higher seed and done had a good episode against a robot that wasn't the defending champion. But we'll see them in the bounties. We'll see them back next year, and I think this robot is just getting better with time.
Yeah, there's a lot of robots really developing like that. You got bots like Scorpius, bots like Bloodsport, bots like Mad Catter, bots like Ribot, bots that we really just didn't think much of when they first came around, and have now developed into proper contenders, main event robots. Hey man, people were cheesing on Ribot 2019.
I was repping Ribot since the beginning, man, and then they beat Endgame, and literally like the server I was in, like they went from making fun of Ribot to being like, oh, we love Ribot. It's like, bro, y'all just riding the wave, man.
Yeah, Story just can't deal with the he's a Ribot day one,
Yeah. Bandwagons, man, it gets
Ribot
to you.
fandom.
Before we start wrapping it up here for this breakdown episode, how are y'all's brackets looking? Let's bust out the brackets here. Are y'all staying alive? Are y'all brackets screwed up? Did y'all play a mulligan when Mammoth got announced in there? I did. I'll admit it.
My one was busted with Scorpios and Shatter.
Mine's busted, but I had Uppercut beating Shatter anyway, and I think they'll beat Riptide. So I'm still in it, sorta. So we're riding.
Yeah, I didn't have a real bracket, but I think I got out of the picks that I did make right before the fights happened. I think I got 2 or 3 of them wrong. I don't remember exactly, but it's okay. These fights were kind of it was an okay episode.
Right, it's just how round 32 was. All the fights were solid, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like an episode 6 where it was just absolutely mental all around.
I have a feeling we'll be getting some more explosive fights next week.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that. Our prediction episode for that episode will be out likely after this one. But talking about my bracket here, like I said, I did play a bit of a mulligan. I originally had a glitch going to the top 8. I went ahead and made a couple switches here, just replaced all the glitches with Witch Doctors after Mammoth was announced. Even though I don't think Copperhead would beat Witch Doctor, I did have Lucky beating Copperhead. That was like my Pory pick of the round, my boldest round 1 pick. Had it going to JD, but yeah, Lucky's out. I also had Shatter beating Riptide. Shatter's out. But outside that, I got Scorpius Malice right. I got Endgame. I got Minotaur. I guess I got Witch Doctor. I got SawBlaze. I got P1. Got Uppercut. So I'm not looking terrible. I'm doing a family bracket thing, and I think I'm in the lead right now. So holla at your boy. Hopefully I win everyone's $5 from that. But any other final thoughts on this episode and the playoffs so far before we wrap it up here?
Decent episode, and as expected. But though for me, I'm just glad that it's just not all verts on this side of the Sweet 16. I'm just glad that we have like robots. We have at least 2 machines that can't really be counted as vertical spinners. I mean, you could count SawBlaze considering it's a vertical spinner on a stick, but I'm just glad P1 is through and it's just not like an entire wash of verts through.
Right,
considering
that unique bot in the top 8.
Yeah, considering half considering the entire like half of the top 32 are just verts, and at least I think 2/3 are spinners. I'm just glad that we have non-spinners, at least one non-spinner through the Sweet 16. Maybe, and if we can get one in the 8 quarterfinals, that'd be even better.
Yeah, P1's got it, guys.
P1's got it.
Let's do that P1 Blip final. Really stick it to the spinners.
Man. Yeah, we've got Blip, Hydra, Whiplash. Rotator's a spinner, but it's definitely not a vertical spinner. So we've got some more variety on the other side, and I think a good portion of those robots I just mentioned have a chance to win their first matchup. So I think we will see some more varied designs going through on that next episode.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fantastic episode as we start wrapping up here at the Combot Collective. And that's going to wrap it up for our episode 11 / left side of the top 32 bracket rundown / analyst / review, whatever you want to call it. It was honestly a pretty good episode, as you can see. Some really solid fights there. You know, the matchups like Minotaur versus Bloodsport, SawBlaze versus HiJinx, HyperShock versus P1. Really solid matchups. A bit of drama there, a bit of controversy with the P1 HyperShock fight, with the untelevised fights like Huge Uppercut, like Copperhead Lucky. But overall, I still think this was a really solid week of robot combat here, really solid week of Battlebots. Great episode. I think the right robots went through. Previewing what we got in this half of the top 32 here, we got Uppercut the 5th seed versus Riptide the 21st seed, P1 the 20th seed versus SawBlaze the 4th seed, Witch Doctor the 24th seed against Copperhead the 8th seed, and of course the champion endgame, number 1 seed in the Desperado semifinals 2019 rematch against Minotaur the 16th seed. All these matches are going to be in our prediction episode week after next, or no, it should be this week. It will be very soon, of course, before that episode comes out for the top 16. But that's going to do it for us here, of course. If you're enjoying what we're doing here at the Combot Collective, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a comment. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, join our Discord server. You can find the links for all of those things in the description below. And as always, hope you enjoyed what you're seeing here. I am Sterling Brown. You can find me on Instagram at SterlingTXTG. You can find me in future projects this year like other podcasts. For the rest of the crew, you can find MisterRedman at his website, www.joshuagunnett.com, and you can find his YouTube page of the same name on YouTube. You can find Pory at his Instagram at PoryNog, or on his YouTube page, www.dippyegg.xyz, which is on the road to 600 subscribers. And of course, Freezy has no social media, but he is an awesome dude. We really love that he's on the team now, and he just has some great insight, as you can see in these past few episodes, and he's been great to have on so far. But that's going to do it for us here at the Combot Collective. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. This has been another rundown episode in the books, and we will see you again next time for hopefully our predictions episode.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.